بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I ask Allah to raise the rank and the honor and the status of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family, his companions, and all of those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. I greet all of you with the greetings of Islam, the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. For those who preceded me in greeting, I say wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, as we all are aware of the good news that Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison has filed charges against all the officers and upgraded the charges on the first officer in the murder of our brother George Floyd. And when I say our brother from our people, our brother in humanity, though he may not be a Muslim, but he shares several things that we all share, and he is from our family. And we must realize that those who share with us in the human family in general is a family, and those who are from our specific ethnicity, they are from your family. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a relationship with the people from his tribe, with the people from his clan. Not all the Quraysh were Muslim, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a relationship with them. He had an attachment to them. And they suffered with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though they were not Muslim. They endured some of the hardships that the Muslim went through because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was from their people, and they protected the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and gave him safety and assistance. So this is something that's not foreign from Islam, and we should not make it foreign for us, that we recognize that we share some things and we should have a concern for our people. So alhamdulillah, this is one step which also shows us the importance of speaking up and speaking out against issues, right? Because had it not been for all these protests and the things that ensued from them, it is highly probable that nothing would have really been done in a expedited manner, in relation to this case. It is through the people speaking out and having an objection, and a strong objection to his murder and his unjust killing, and therefore following through that with dialogue and with action. Which brings me to my Fajr reflection for today. And my reflection is definitely not going to be completely comprehensive of all the things that we need to do, but it is to start a conversation among ourselves. And I'm going to be very frank in this conversation because it is essential that I'm explicit and frank so that the point is the point gets across, and we can start really working in a serious manner. So I titled this Post-Fajr reflection, The Black Muslim Agenda. And I was deliberate in that, the Black Muslim Agenda. Before starting with that subject matter, let me clarify something. And I don't know if I put a post on yesterday. That's something I found very significant. That when we're talking about Black issues in general, Black people, and when I say Black issues, I want to be real specific. Black American descendants of slaves. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about Black issues. I'm not talking about Africans from Africa who have a land and a government and a home, and they've immigrated to America, and because they're dark-skinned like us, that doesn't mean they share our experience, because they don't. When I'm talking about this issue, I'm talking about Black Americans who are descendants of slaves that were kidnapped from Africa. That's what I'm talking about. And we must realize that we are a people unlike no other people on the face of the earth. We have specific circumstances that only pertain to us. And I think it is a major mistake to not focus in on that reality and pretend that someone else shares our reality, because they don't. And that is a major mistake on our part when we start thinking we all got it in common. No, we don't. This is specific to you, the African American, Black American, whatever you want to call, whatever they want to call ourselves, and whatever we choose to call ourselves. We have specific issues that we got to deal with, that no one else deals with it. So when I say the Black Muslim agenda, I'm talking about the Black American Muslim agenda, the African American Muslim agenda. This is something that we can't ignore. And I'm going to detail why it's specific to us. So that's one thing. And I realize I have friends, I have teachers, I have students that are not African American. So one may be concerned, well, why are you talking about this issue? Because this is our issue and we must talk about it. We must deal with it. But in no way does that entail the others don't have a role to play. So whether they are immigrants from Pakistan or Bangladesh, or Arab immigrants, those are from the subcontinent, or Arab immigrants, or African immigrants, or even Europeans, or even white Americans. You have a role to play, but we're not, and we should not, and we must not ignore our particular circumstances and conditions and issues to try to make others feel good. No. It's an old saying, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it don't apply, let it fly. So we're not going to ignore the issue because someone may not feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, then you got a problem you need to fix. So the issue must be addressed. So I say that first because I don't want the false picture that because we Muslims, that our issues went away and we should no longer talk about them because Islam came to remove all those things. Islam came to remove all those things. Unfortunately, Muslims still participate in those things. So that's another discussion. Islam came to remove all forms of racism, bias, bigotry. That's Islam. But not all Muslims practice Islam. American Constitution is supposed to give freedom and liberty and the pursuit of happiness for all of its citizens, but that's not real. that hasn't occurred still to this day. It's an idea that hasn't seen a reality. And likewise, in our Islam, the idea of one brotherhood is an idea, but we haven't seen its reality. And we shouldn't ignore reality for a false idea. So this is important that we're on reality level. With that understanding, I will go forward. So when I speak about the Black Muslim agenda, there are a lot of items that we need to focus on. So I'm going to put some that I think are a priority. Number one, I think the first thing that we have to realize as Black Muslims is we have to learn Islam properly. And that may sound simple, but it's not. We have to learn Islam properly because in our community specifically, we have been given time and time again a false or corrupt or deviant understanding of Islam. And that hasn't changed to today. And those false, deviant understandings of Islam have helped to further oppress us and help us further stay in the conditions that we find ourselves and not being able to come out of it. What do I mean by that? We're still as a people learning what is the proper way to learn and practice Islam. We still have concepts of Islam that are not Islamic, and they're dominant and prevalent in our communities. So, for instance, we went from some organizations that were complete Black nationalist organizations, but more dangerous than that, they had wrong conceptions of Islam. The Black man is God, the white man is the devil, and these concepts and many religious concepts that contradict original Islam. Alhamdulillah, we came over that. We started to learn more about the Sunnah, but then they gave us a doctrine of Islam that was given to them and promoted by the same people who enslaved us. And now I'm going to be explicit. The Wahhabi doctrine has been a source of destroying the Black American community. I have to be honest. And I know there may be some people who follow the Wahhabi doctrine and don't understand it, and don't understand its roots, and don't understand its purpose. But it has been a means to rip asunder the unity of Black Americans, and it has caused the most destruction in our communities. This is real. Now, that's another discussion. I know that's a discussion that some people not gonna like, because some of us are still Wahhabis and hold those doctrines dearly. But that's a lack of education, and we need to educate on that. And it's not to talk about us. We are victims of someone else's indoctrination towards us. And this is real. So when I speak about it, I'm going to speak about it in a way that is effective, is honest, and is fair, but we can't ignore history, because whoever ignores history is destined to repeat it. So I'm speaking about something in a way that is real. So we say we got out of the false understanding of the Moorish Science Temple, of the Nation of Islam at that time, of the Ansar Allah community, and then we develop into the Sunnah, which we thought, and then we get a doctrine that doctrine itself is a destructive, corrupt understanding of Islam itself. And all of the things that gave Islam strength, that doctrine came to destroy it. And if you look, the leaders of that doctrine in the world are friends with our oppressor. Are friends with our oppressor. And our oppressor has the ability to dictate to them how they spread their doctrine. But we have Black Americans who love that stuff because they've been trained by the enemies of the Muslims. And they don't realize it. They've been trained. Their education has been paid for by a government who supports our oppressor. A government who uses the resources of our oppressor to keep power and oppress other Muslims. This is real. This is real. And then we got many of us, because we're confronted with our family members and our friends who are Wahhabi in the name called Salafi. I'm being honest with you. And that's a rough thing for us to take. This is my friend, it's my brother, this is me. I've been duped, I've been hoodwinked, and I don't realize it. And now we don't have that discussion because no one challenges the oppressor. That's a serious issue. The Wahhabi doctrine, the Salafi doctrine, was aided, assisted by the British with the support of the West to overthrow the Islamic Empire. That's true. That's facts. All you got to do is study history. But that same doctrine has become the dominant doctrine in the African American community. Let's talk about it. If we're going to deal with oppression, we got to deal with it all across the board, because it has been a source for us not to be active. And all of the judgments and the fatwa that came from that direction has been fatwa that made us not be able to move as a people. So that's why you got Black people scared to involve themselves in the political activity, scared to involve themselves in the community, scared to do this, intimidated. Why? Because the Saudi Wahhabi doctrine told you it's haram, it's bid'ah, it's innovation. We Muslims, we don't have nothing to do with that. It's qawmiyah, it's asabiyah, and all that other nonsense. And this is true. And everyone knows it. And even they are recognizing it, and they're rebelling from the people, but not rebelling from the doctrine that was developed by those people. It's a big difference. So they're saying, we're not listening to the Arabs. We're not listening to them. They ain't going to tell us what to do. We're going to have our own scholarship. We only time when it's the Black man, we can't be scholars. And we cheering, cheering, cheering. And that's a good thing that you're realizing that you got to let the slave master, Arab slave master, Saudi slave master, get his knee off your neck. But what happens is you still carrying his doctrine. So you may free from the chains, but he still got you mentally. You're still carrying his doctrine that he developed and he innovated to destroy Islam from within. Let's talk about it. It's facts, as we say, and we won't wake up. Who established that Saudi government? The British. Who helped them? Who gave them weapons to kill thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of Muslims? That was the British. Study it. Study history. Who was their campaign against? They accused all the Muslims as mushriks and idol worshippers and grave worshippers, and they used it as a justification, something that was known in Islam for 1,000 years or more. They considered it as shirk, and they slaughtered the Muslims with the help of the British. And they continue to slaughter Muslims with the help of America. This is real. We cannot argue with it. Facts is facts. So if we study their doctrine, we'll realize that that doctrine has been rejected by the Muslim world ever since its inception, 200 years ago. Ever since its inception, the majority of the Muslim nation have rejected it. This is real. History studies it, but there's an old saying. History explains it, but there's an old saying that our oppressor has used. You want to hide something from a Black man, put it in a book. They're not going to read. And we got to reverse that. Now we're going to read. We're going to study history. We're going to sort this stuff out. Because it ain't sufficient to rebel against the oppressor if you still carrying the oppressor's doctrine. You still have his mind. You still think like him. You got to get rid of the oppressor and his ideas. So from Islam, we still got to learn Islam. We're going to have a 30 to 50-year journey just restructuring our mind and to understand Islam properly. And here's another thing that's going to make that difficult. Many Muslims, African-American Muslims, and others who know the reality of this are cowards, and they won't call it. They won't call it out. What they'll say is, oh, mashallah, we just got to be all unified. And yeah, we want unity under truth, not unity under oppression. And if you know it, you got to speak the truth. We can't gather together on falsehood. It's not going to help us. Because while we are trying to unify, they are consistently giving out their doctrine, which is going to set us back. I'm going to give you an example. And I won't name names. Those who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. Those who don't, you just get the point. They want to have, in a particular place, a gathering just for prayer. They're coming together just to pray. So they said, let's just invite everybody. Let's everybody come together. So they come sincerely. And what they do, they bring their people come, they invite them, and instead of just coming to pray, they bring their books, they bring their doctrine and pass it to everyone else, and nobody check them. No one says, hey, we came to pray, not spread your doctrine. But read the book that they passing out. It is that same Wahhabi doctrine given to the Black community. Why you didn't stop them? Say, we just came to pray. If you want to have a dialogue about your doctrine, you want to spread your doctrine, that's another thing. Why? And it's in the name of brotherhood. And then you read those books carry the doctrine of the oppressor. So then we should address that. Not every gift is free. There's a price for those free books. And that price is the correct understanding of Islam. And they've been giving free books all around in the prisons and everywhere. And now you get out and brothers are coming out and they're confused about Islam and think they're on the Sunnah. And have become a source of destruction within the African-American community. And that's why they haven't built anything. This is real. I'm just giving you an idea to think about it. It don't gotta be, once you understand concepts and you research, then things become clear. And I'm telling you, the biggest virus in the Black African-American community, Islamically, is that Wahhabi Salafi doctrine. I'm telling you, I said it. Whoever don't like it, but I'm open to do the historical check and background check on that movement and their ideas. And we'll have plenty of evidences to show you what I'm saying is true. It ain't a joke. And if we don't address that, we're going to be hundreds of years of our people in the same condition. Because those same people that we taking this doctrine from are rewriting their doctrine based on the suggestions and recommendations of Donald Trump. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We go to Saudi Arabia and we get treated like mushriks, like idol worshippers, and we people of Tawheed. We can't go visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam too long. You sit there, they're smacking you with sticks and pushing you away. But the biggest idol worshiper, Fir'aun in the world, comes and they lay out a red carpet for him and have a party and a celebration. Talk about it. Talk about it. These are our teachers. Are these our teachers? I hope they're not our teachers. And if they are the teachers who pay for your education, I question the level of your education. If those were your teachers, those were the ones who gave you your free education, that you come back in talking about that you graduated from the university of such and such and such and such, that was funded and supported by them and educated and taught by them, I question your level of education. Tell me about it. That's just real. And I know they're not going to like this. And many of us who have become Muslim house Negroes, and you know what we really say about that, that have now got a little status, they don't want to talk about the truth either. They know it. It's not that they don't know. It's not that they don't know. They know, but they don't want to talk about it because it's going to make them uncomfortable. Well, we've learned through this situation that if we want change, people got to be uncomfortable. If we want real change, we want empowerment in our communities, we got to make some people feel uncomfortable. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to start that within. And trust me, it's not something small. It's huge. It's huge. So as I say to our people that are Muslim, that are non-African American, non-Black, you want to help? You have the information. Start being honest with our people. Start spreading correct Islam. Start mentioning the deviance of the deviant people who are misguiding people. Why? Because we got generations of Muslims in the African American community who are subject to this type of doctrine, who therefore ain't going to be able to build. Always going to be considered a deviant understanding of the religion, and therefore you will never give them room to grow. A few years ago, they had a conference in Chechnya, in the area of Russia. They had a Sunni conference, an Islamic conference. Scholars from all over the world, from every state, they left, everyone joined in, and they excluded the Wahhabi Salafi movement. You can't attend. All of them were there. Azhar University, the Habaib from Yemen, scholars from Syria, scholars from India, scholars from Morocco, scholars from all over the world were there, and they did not allow the Wahhabis or the Salafis to attend. They clearly said that this is a deviant group. Maybe you don't know about it, but everyone in the Muslim world knows about it, and we're not privileged to this information. They excluded them specifically. And so all of you talking about our sheikhs and this, nah, they was there, they were present, they were speaking, the videos are available, the books, the notes and the releases from their lectures are available. And it was clear what their position was. And I said to brothers who knew it among us, I said, how is it that everyone else can speak about this, have big seminars for over a week with hundreds of scholars and thousands of attendees, and we don't get this information? Explain. You protect your countries, you protect your people, but the Black Americans are left with this doctrine, and no one says nothing. Oh, what's up with that? Explain. How is it good for y'all, but not good for us? How come the information was so important for y'all that all of your scholars, all of the great scholars of Islam were present, but the Black man in America wasn't given access? Explain. Tell me about it. That's real. I'm not making it up. I got all of the notes, all of the lectures. They're available on YouTube. The lectures are available. African Americans weren't included at all. At all. Now, the next thing will be said, Well, it was a gathering of scholars. Okay, so you just told us again, we don't got no scholars. And if we don't got no scholars, what are you doing to ensure that there's scholarship among the Black American community? Nah, let's talk about it. Because if Malcolm was alive and he understood what was going on, ain't nowhere in the world he would remain silent. Since we all love Malcolm, Malcolm was for Black American people. No one can deny that. Even when he was out around the world talking to other nations, he was talking about the condition of the Black American, Afro-American here in the United States of America. And that was on the top of his priority list. Talk about it. And somebody got to break the ice. Somebody got to say something so that the conversation will go forward. The information will be provided. Because if I'm wrong, then that means all these scholars who came together with a common cause explicitly left them out. It wasn't no hesitation. You're not allowed to come. We don't want none of your scholars, none of the ulama from Saudi Arabia, none of them. They're not invited, not allowed to come, banned. If they did that, it was a reason. Why did they do it? Why did they do it? And the reason they did it, because that is a deviant understanding of Islam, and they wanted to clarify what true Islam was for their people around the world. But just we weren't included. We weren't included. So that's an issue. And only ones among us who know about this, and it is some of us who know it. Anyone who studies Islamic sciences, who studied overseas, who learned Arabic, would know about this conference. They would know about it. So since you know about it, why are you so silent? You know about it. You know what occurred. You know it happened, but you act like it didn't. And I'm talking about the top scholars in the world, all around the world, from every country came, and they did that. Why y'all didn't mention that to us? That's significant. That's telling you something. So that's one aspect. And for me, I think I'm passionate about it. Why? Because Islam, I believe, and I think all of you believe, is the way out of this system of injustice and oppression for the Black American Muslim and the Black people as a whole. If we want freedom, justice, and equality, we're not going to get that except when it comes to Islam. That's our firm conviction. But if you can give us a false concept of Islam, it ain't going to work. Not going to work. And guess what? It hasn't. That's why we don't got central Black leadership. That's why we don't have central Black leadership, because that doctrine taught us that every man can do it himself. You can follow Quran and Sunnah. You don't need to follow scholarship. You don't need to follow a madhab. You don't need to have any shaykh. You can do it all yourself, where no one in the Muslim world accept that nonsense. No one, in no country. But if you can make us a people who don't have leadership, who don't have scholarship, and therefore you become our leader, you become our reference, and you controlled by our enemy who got their foot on our neck, got their knee on our neck on our country, and comes through you and oppress us some more, then that's a problem. Notice the chain that I'm making. Look at their Senate. Look at their chain of narration. We go to them, they teach us, they get their instruction and marching orders from the same people we're trying to fight against. How the heck are we going to come up after that? How are we going to be empowered? How are we going to be built when we're going right to the one we're trying to run from through somebody else? Explain how that's going to work. Now, we can't be afraid to speak the truth. We can't. And I don't blame our Black American brothers. You've been hoodwinked. I got it. Malcolm told us that over 50 years ago. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run them up. Yeah, that's what happened. And it happened to you in the name of Islam by those enemies of the way of the traditional conveyance of this deen, with the support of the same beast that is oppressing us here in America. And you go to Saudi Arabia and you see the same thing. Where you think they got it from? They got it from their masters. Mr. Charlie, that's where they learn that stuff from. They learn from the best how to oppress. That's where they got it from. Study history. Donald Trump is welcome more in that country than you. That's sad. And it don't got nothing to do with the land. It got to do with the people that's running the land. Because the land is a holy land. And before those people, there was much, much more safety and tranquility and unity among the Muslims. This is real. This is history. And trust me, we have the history books to prove it. So this ain't just talk. This ain't something that, even though I may have a lot of passion about it, but it ain't just theory. I got the books to prove it. So if you need Dalil, I got tons of Dalil. Dalil, too much Dalil. Explicit. The evidence is available. If you want to present a case, it's a closed case. This ain't a big discussion. But that's one aspect of it. And I don't want to dwell on it solely for that, but it's a big problem because I look here, I live in Atlantic City. I live in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And one of the biggest divisive things in the Islamic community in Atlantic City is Wahhabism. That's one of the biggest divisive things in the community. Among themselves, they can't get along. They can't even have one masjid for themselves. That's real. There's one Sunni masjid in Atlantic City. That's Masjid Muhammad. That is Ahl Sunnah, Ash'ari, Shafi'i, follow Tasawwuf, and people who attend, they know that. 2 schools, Ash'ari, Maturidi, 4 schools of thought, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali, and Turuq al-Sufiya, the Sufi paths. That's Masjid Muhammad. Every other masjid in the city is influenced by Wahhabism and racism. Let's talk about it. By Wahhabism, they all share that. All of them have the Wahhabi Salafi doctrine, every single one of them. And the only thing beyond that is they're racistly divided, they're racially divided. So the Pakistanis got their group, the Egyptians got their group, the Bengalis got their group, and there's about 2 or 3 African-American separated, but all of them got the same Wahhabi doctrine. Talk about it. And you can take that around the country. So this is something to think about. That's tearing our communities up. We can't even pray together because of that. And we act like that's not real. We act like, oh, you know, if you know, we could just be Muslim. There's a reason why we don't get along. And we need to address it. And it's a cause that divided our people. We definitely got to talk about that. Or we can't move forward. We can't. And this ain't something I'm saying on internet. In my city, they know. I say it. I don't hesitate. I say it. Why? Not because I want us to be divided. I want us to learn the truth so we can move forward. I want us to stop making different masjids all over the place. In a small city, you got 4 and 5 masjids. Why? That's not necessary. One masjid, one community, one Islam, we move forward. Why we got all these different masjids? What the heck is the disease? What is the disease that's causing us to separate like that? And if you don't address the disease, you're never going to get a cure. If you don't figure out what's the problem, you're never going to cure it. Never. So as long as we act like we don't got two different religions, and I mean it like that. So what do you mean two different religions? We don't believe the same thing. We don't. And if we're honest, the doctrines are so different that if it wasn't not politically correct, most of them would kill us. They would consider our blood, our property, our everything as lawful. And they have said it. They would say our blood is lawful. What kind of doctrine is telling you that? Why? Because they think you're a mushrik. They think you're an idol worshiper. They think you're a grave worshiper. They think you worship Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what they say. It's in their books. But we don't want to address that stuff. Just remain silent. You can't remain silent. That's why it ain't changing. We remain silent about the oppression of this racist, white supremacist society, and we keep getting killed because we're silent. And we're not getting justice because we're silent. Stop being silent. Speak the truth, even if it's against yourself. Don't remain silent. Since we're going to make a change, let's make a change. Let's make a change. Let's make a change so we can come up as a people and be on equal footing with everyone else. How come every other community, the Arabs, the Pakistanis, the Bengalis, the Africans, all of them are able to be unified. They have a culture, and their doctrine don't go against their culture. It doesn't disrupt their culture. They still build together. They still get business together. They still have their families together. They said, except the African American. Talk to me. Talk to me. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me where I'm wrong. Go around the country, and I travel around the country. You go, the same problem in every city, no matter where you go, in the black community, we got the same issue, but that issue don't exist with the others. They have problems, yes, but not the same we got. Nah. Let one of them go to Saudi Arabia and come back to their communities talking about they're all mushriks, they're misguided, they're deviant. You don't see that. You don't see that. You don't see that. Go look at all their leaders. Go look at the famous Wahhabi people among the immigrants, among the other communities, and see how their community is existing, how they're doing, and then look at the Negroes who went and learned in Saudi Arabia and came back to America and see what they're doing. This is real. Think about it. They are funded, they are supported, and even though they got their Wahhabi doctrine, they don't go against their people. Never. Look around the world. Go study the graduates from the University in Medina, from all around the world. Compare them who went from Africa, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, from the Arab world. Go to all of them. Go look in their communities in the United States, the white ones. Go see how they are supported compared to African Americans ones who've come, and see what they've done in their communities and see the conditions of the African American community. Examine it. Examine it. I say this is something that we can't ignore. We should refuse to ignore. That's one aspect of it. But in addition to that, we have to deal with that. And then the next thing that we have to deal with after we deal with that issue. And y'all know I try my best to be as delicate with our emotions and our feelings as possible. I try very hard. But I can't ignore this because it ain't gonna work. I know it ain't gonna work. And that's a discussion we got to have. And our leaders got to be brave enough to deal with that discussion. Because I'm watching us. If we keep tiptoeing around these issues, we're going to find ourselves 100 years later in the same condition. We're not going to move because that issue is going to come up. It's going to come up. It's going to come up. We're not going to be able to avoid it. And we got to deal with it. And we got to use truth as truth. It's something we can't ignore. Just like we have to face the racism, white supremacy, lying in our school books and our texts and everything on the college level. Why do you think we got historically black colleges and universities? Why do you think we got them? Historically black colleges and universities, we got them because someone realized that the education that was given to us by the oppressor doesn't work for us. We realized it, and we established black colleges and universities to overcome the system of oppression and bad education that was given us to keep us in a bad condition. Well, if the black man in America understood that, why can't the black Muslim in America understand that the same thing happened in Islam? Why not? Why not? And just as today, and how many years, decades, have we had those historical black colleges and universities, and they're still struggling for support. They're still struggling to survive. They're still fighting racist tendencies within the education system. Well, it's the same thing in Islam. Go around the country. We had the system of Clara Muhammad schools. Imam Muhammad continued to spread them. They got decimated with the change of this Wahhabi doctrine in America, where you only got a handful of them that go to K-12. But you got all these immigrant schools and private Islamic schools that black people can't afford. Talk to me. Tell me I'm wrong. Count the number of Sister Clara Muhammad schools that are existing, and how many have been destroyed, how many have been lost, and how many of children have been taken away by the system, by deviant doctrines, by the world. Tell me about it. All around the country, you had African-American schools for black Muslims to grow, and now they're all being wiped out slowly but surely and rejected as a whole for something that has not been replaced it with nothing. So you got our kids in schools where they're predominantly outnumbered and they're made to feel inferior. They're dealing with racism. They don't feel like they have nothing of their own. And even we got teachers who go to those schools and trying to be as if they're doing Islamic education and they feel bad too. Just have the discussion. Nah, we got changes to make. And guess what? The other communities will respect you when you respect yourself. But as long as you come with your head bowed down and your hand out, you ain't gonna get no respect. You're gonna get tokenism. That's what you're gonna get. But when you stand equal in knowledge, in development, in building, in education, in economics, then you can come to the table and talk. So you have to do that. And that don't mean you gotta hate anybody. What you gotta do is include yourself, take care of yourself, build your own esteem, build your own industries, build your own institutions, build things for you, and then you will be respected on the world stage. You have to do it. This is where we at. And this is just stage one. I'm going to come here and I'm gonna come back tomorrow. And I'm gonna address other issues that need to be on the black agenda. But the first thing that I believe that needs to be on the black agenda is correcting our understanding of Islam, because it is a means to keep us in the condition that we're in. And that's going to take some details. And I'm going to, inshallah, explain the details. But I know with this video, when it goes out, when it is spread, those Sunni scholars who learned overseas, who know what I'm talking about, who read Arabic, who read the books of the scholars, stop being cowards in the name of humbleness. Because we have the same thing in our Black community. People don't want to speak up for justice because I have arrived. I'm in the middle class. I am an educated Negro. So I live in the suburbs now. I don't need to fight. Yes, you do, because you still considered nigger too. And that's the same thing happened in Islam. They let a few of us in, give us a little title, call us sheikh, give us an honorarium, and we act like we ain't dealing with these issues. And we still dealing with them, because as long as your people deal with them, you deal with them. And every one of us who have been in those positions know the feeling and know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't think they don't know. They know, but we've been taught to cower down in front of our oppressors. We've been taught to stay in your place. And we got to change that. We have to change it. It's a must. There are communities. We talk about brotherhood. I know there are communities that got zakat money in the hundreds of thousands, in the millions of dollars. And they're funding their institutions and everything, and they don't look back to the Black community at all. And what's worse is some of that zakat money came from people in the Black community. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Think about that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some got $1 million or more of zakat money that's supposed to go to among the main classes, al-masakin wal-fuqara, the poor and the extremely poor, those who are struggling, those who have debts, those who are oppressed. That's where that zakat money, its primary focus is at. But is it going? Is it helping? They say in fun educating scholars and students of knowledge. How many Black people are supported by those institutions? Talk back to me. Tell me, how many Black Americans who studied overseas, who have working in the community, who are teaching every single day are supported by those funds? Tell me about it. Tell me about it. You saying this, I'm wrong? You want to do transparency? Show me the African-American, Black sheikhs and scholars and students who are supported by those funds. I studied overseas. The answer is very few. You can count them on your hands. And those who know among us who have studied, we be studying overseas. Every other community got communities funding them. They get money, they get support, they get everything. The Black man better figure it out the best way he can. That's real. And I challenge anyone to show me different. And I got a million examples to show you I'm right. I got Black African Americans right now overseas that have begged these institutions. I'm trying to study. I'm sitting with great scholars. I studied in Yemen. I'm in Syria. I'm in Lebanon. I'm in Egypt. And nothing coming forward to them. Zilch. Nothing. Figure it out the best way you can, Black man, because I'm not giving you nothing. And I'm not making this up. I was just on the phone with one of the most prominent African-American seekers of knowledge, teachers, and they having the same problem right now. They're figuring out how they can get funding to continue their efforts. With all this money around in the Muslim Ummah, why are you struggling? Tell me, I don't understand. Why are you worrying about getting a couple $1,000s when somebody got hundreds of $1,000s and millions of dollars in their zakat fund? I ain't talking about their other budget for their institution. I'm talking about just zakat money that they got stored up. But they fund their own. They got their own students that ain't worried about that. So for us, yeah, we got to do it. And there's a call for Black people to invest in the Black community in Islam. Yes, the Black Muslim community needs to invest in the Black Islamic community around the country. I'm with a group of imams. We have these discussions. It's real. It ain't fake. I'm not making it up. Any imam who doesn't lie to you or himself will tell you the same thing. I'm not making this up. We talk about it, but we talk about it behind closed doors because we've been taught to be afraid, to think it's un-Islamic to speak about the injustices, the crime, the horrendous travesties that are happening to our community. We've been told don't talk about that. That's un-Islamic. That's racism. That's asabiya. That's qawmiya. Man, you're the biggest people practicing qawmiya and asabiya on the planet. No one's doing that more than other people. We ain't even in a position to do that. The same way we're not in a position to be racist because all the racism is being perpetrated against us. Whatever applies to Black people in America applies to Black Muslims in America. And don't worry, everybody got to do their part. This is my part. As I say all the time, everybody got to do their part. I accept my role. I know better, I'm going to speak better. That's it. Now, people may not like what I'm saying, but I'm open for the challenge. I'm open for the discussion. I'm not running from it. Never have, never will. If I'm wrong, which I know I'm not, and you better have a serious research department if you're going to say I'm wrong in this issue, because the facts are plain and clear if you just open your eyes. And this is something we got to discuss. We got to have that discussion. You'll never have unity in our communities until you have this discussion. You can run from it all you want. It's a real discussion. You gotta have it. It's a discussion you can't avoid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to become adults, to become men and women. Because men and women can handle facts, can handle truth. We can handle it. We want truth. We want what is right. Even if we're doing the wrong thing, we want it to be said, yo, man, let me correct myself. Let me fix this. Let me take a look at this. If the white man is being forced to do it in America, because trust me, they didn't want to lock those cops up. They didn't want to arrest them at all. They didn't want to do it. But they were forced by the pressure of people who said no more. Well, trust me, those people from among those communities that are helping suppress the rise of African-American Muslims and letting them have a voice, who have been comfortable in their seats of power, speaking on behalf of Islam, they know the truth. They just don't want you involved, period. End of story. Now, your job is to say, no, I'm not sharing the table with you. I demand my seat at the head of the table. That's where you got to be. Or if not, I'll make a table for myself and my people. And we will stand against your exclusion of us. We demand to be at the head of the table. We deserve to be at the head of the table, because if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't even be here. because this white man would have not let you in, except that we broke the barrier of his racist, exclusive tendencies. That's what we have to do. May Allah give us tawfiq, give us support. And I tell all of you, spread the video. Spread the video. Spread the video like they spread their videos. Because guess what? There are going to be some of us house Negro Muslims who are going to act like, oh, he's just against Wahhabis, he's just against Salafis. And they're right, I'm against the doctrine. I'm not against people. I'm definitely against that doctrine. I believe it has poisoned the Muslim world. It has put the world in a state of confusion, and I'm against it. Yes, that's true. But when the white man's against it, you cool with it. When Donald Trump wanted to say terrorism is, you know, the biggest enemy to the United States, and when Obama wanted to go bomb Muslims because terrorism, when they saying terrorism, they're saying Wahhabism, but they have interest in the people who got that doctrine. These white folks know what they're talking about. They're not fighting terrorism. They're not fighting extremism. They're fighting their own disease that they planted in the Muslim world, and it came back to destroy them. That's what they're fighting. But they still need to keep Negroes in control, so they're not calling a spade a spade. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May Allah reward you. May Allah increase you. And inshallah, tomorrow we'll continue. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.